I've been leaning pretty hard on the comfort foods lately. I'm talking Korean fried chicken, meatballs, wine for lunch. I need some vegetables. I think I'm gonna go to the minestrone zone. I started this recipe out back in the garden. I'm out here to grab kale, baby spinach, and some Swiss chard. This is the luxury of the vegetable garden. You can grab whatever you need when you need it. I'm gonna head inside and get a quick wash on these greens. On the shopping list for this minestrone, we're gonna need 1 package of stock. These are usually 32 ounces. A batch of cooked beans with their liquid, 1 bulb of fennel, 5 ounces of dried pasta, 1 pound of asparagus spears, 1 whole red onion, 6 ounces or a cup and a half of frozen peas, 4 cloves of garlic, some grated Parmesan to garnish, and about a pound of fresh greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, anything you have can work. Let's talk about minestrone. It's a perfect blueprint for a vegetable soup, but what is it? In my mind, it's always a bean and some starch. It could be rice or pasta mixed with seasonal vegetables. From there, you can go pretty much wherever. You can write your own playbook. One last thing I want to get to here, bean liquid. When you cook beans at home, meaning you soak them overnight and then you either pressure cook them or cook them on the stove for a long period of time, low, you get this very silky, full-bodied liquid that the beans are sitting in. It's definitely a valuable tool to bring body to anything from a stew to a soup. So never throw away your bean liquid. We got that? Okay, let's get back to cooking. The actual prep for this recipe starts with some knife work. We're gonna small dice this red onion just by cutting it in half. I just cut slices crosswise and then turn it 90 degrees and do the same. This is just a simpler way to cut an onion. I think we've all seen the other way of doing it. We're gonna do the same thing with our fennel, but this time we're gonna cut out the core. You can see here I'm kind of cutting into the base on each side and it just pops right out. Similar deal here, we're gonna go with a small dice. Fennel, have you guys had it? I think everyone has, right? It's 2020, it's sweet, it's got a light anise flavor, and it's delicious cooked or raw. I shave it in salads. It's usually in the aromatic base of most stews and soups that I make. You know, onions are delicious and they're great. Fennel is a great complement and we can definitely use both. Any questions? Didn't think so. Next, take your asparagus and chop off the woody base and then just cut into coins about the width of a pea. This is for a very similar reason as in the gnocchi video. We just want the asparagus to be able to fit on a spoon. We don't want giant pieces that are 2 inches long. They just get to be a little bit difficult to eat in this situation. Next, we're gonna sliver our 4 cloves of garlic and just throw a real rustic chop here. You don't have to worry about perfection here. This is a very rustic recipe. And speaking of rustic, I have this penne in my pantry. Normally I would use something like an elbow or some broken spaghetti, but I have penne. So I'm gonna be using my knife to break this pasta into smaller pieces. As you can see here, something this brittle does not wanna be cut by a knife. So keep that in mind. If you don't have the perfect pasta for this soup or any other soup, you can always just cut it and break it down. It's kind of a wild card move, but I highly recommend it. And the prep on this pasta is really easy. We're just gonna bring 2 quarts of water to a boil, season it well with salt, and then just cook this pasta for however long it takes to get close to al dente. We just want something that has fun texture and is a little bit squishy. After about 8 to 10 minutes, our pasta is tender. I'm just draining it here and setting it aside in a bowl for later. Okay, so now it's time to cook the soup. In your large Dutch oven over medium heat, heat about 3 to 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. I go big with oil on the base of soups like this because I think that the vegetables, the aromatics, they tend to season that fat, and as it sits on top of the soup when you eat it, you really get that flavor. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to get this pan appropriately heated. Then we're gonna add in our red onion and follow soon with fennel. Once we've been sweating the onion and fennel for about 5 minutes, we're gonna add in our garlic and continue for another 3 to 4 minutes. We aren't doing a hard saute and we're not really looking for color. This is how I concentrate the flavor and start getting the vegetables tender. So this is a secret ingredient here. I didn't think about this earlier, but I did have some white wine in my fridge, and a spring minestrone is a perfect opportunity to use some white wine. So we're gonna deglaze here with about a half cup of white wine and just cook that off real quick. We're gonna take our strained bean liquid and add that in along with our chicken stock and bring this whole thing up to a boil. Once we're up to a boil, we're gonna reduce that to a simmer and give it about 15 minutes to cook the aromatic vegetables until fully tender. This is also an opportunity to build the flavor of the broth. Simmering the vegetables for this extra 15 minutes infuses the stock with the onion, fennel, garlic flavor and really gives us a much more flavorful soup. After 15 minutes, we're gonna add in our coined asparagus and cook that for about 1.5 to 2 minutes. We're gonna be adding these things in stages so we don't overcook one component over the other. Then it's time for our greens to be wilted in and our frozen peas. If you have fresh peas, all the better. Maybe in 2 weeks I'm gonna have some and I'll make this soup again, but for now, frozen peas taste great. At this point, taste your soup. You wanna make sure it's very well seasoned. There should be a good hit of acid from that cooked down white wine. If you need some more, we can add a little bit of lemon juice. I'm gonna take this soup off the heat and then I'm gonna gently fold in my cooked pasta and my cooked beans. I don't like to stir it too much after this point because I put a lot of energy into making sure I had nice, tender cooked beans and I don't wanna smash them up by stirring it too much. I have a strong opinion about how we grate Parmesan. I don't think you just put feather shred on top of everything. I don't really like that style of Parmesan. I think you have to match the grind or the grate of the Parmesan to the dish that you're putting it on. Sometimes you don't even need to grate it. You could just do some shavings, some peeled Parmesan, something simple. For this dish, you can see on the box grater here as I'm doing it, I'm kind of going back and forth on the coarsest side to get small pieces, but not too small. I want to put these in a hot soup and I don't want them to melt right away. The thing that I've got in my head here is that I want to have pops of nice cheese. I don't want to just have creamy melted texture in the soup. If we just use a grated Parmesan, we would have just sort of like a more milky broth. So here I'm adding some cheese that's going to hold on to its shape for a while when I'm eating the soup. So I have some bites with it, some bites without it. And then when I get a bite, all of a sudden I'm super stoked because it's fucking Parmesan City, USA. The rest of our garnishes are going to be black pepper, chili flake, and some extra virgin olive oil. Simple setup. Let's plate it up. Kind of like cacio e pepe soup. It's pretty though, it's green. Lots of olive oil. Lots of nice different soft textures. And the broth is super flavorful and rich from the bean liquid. Mmm. It's like a 10,000 bite soup. Mmm. Mmm. Cheese bite. So we made that soup in 25 minutes. I'll say this again. Bean liquid is dope. Me likey. But that's it. We used some nice spring vegetables, some from the garden. We put a bunch of cheese on top, a bunch of oil. I dipped some nice bread in it, and that's that. It's a civilized lunch. So if you got some value out of this video, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your dad. All the recipes should be posted down below. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'll give you a hand. Hit that subscribe. We'll see you next time.